Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, well, often paradoxical corner of the financial world.
Hmm.
We're zeroing in on the outspoken and decidedly contrarian views of author Robert Kiyosaki, specifically about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Our deep dive is based on recent excerpts titled Kiyosaki's Bitcoin Bullish Outlook and Investment Strategy.
And what's genuinely fascinating here, I think, is how his unwavering long-term conviction in Bitcoin really stands in stark contrast to so much of the current market chatter.
Yeah, especially the doom and gloom you might be hearing.
Exactly. So our mission for you today is to really understand why he remains so incredibly bullish, even when others are predicting this massive crash.
Right, and what specific, maybe even shocking strategies he's openly using.
Hmm.
You've almost certainly heard the talk lately, the whispers, the headlines, the outright shouts that Bitcoin has peaked for this cycle,
Oh,
and that a significant, maybe even brutal correction is just around the corner. There's a real sense of trepidation circulating.
for sure. Some are even calling for another crypto winter.
Right.
But Kiyosaki, well, he directly and unequivocally rebuts these claims. He views them as exaggerated claims,
Exaggerated by who?
perpetuated, he says, by media outlets that are, in his words, seeking attention through clickbait headlines.
Okay, so he thinks it's just noise.
More than noise. He doesn't just dismiss them.
Mhm.
He believes these speculations are actually designed to frighten speculators or short-term investors.
Okay.
And crucially, to manipulate market sentiments, preventing retail from entering the market.
Right, so push out the small guys.
That's his argument. He suggests these narratives let the larger, maybe institutional players accumulate at lower prices. Once fear dries out, the less convinced. It's a very pointed critique.
It really is. So given that market sentiment, what's Kiyosaki's personal response if Bitcoin does crash? Does he panic? Sell?
Nope. He shared that his exact response would be to buy more.
Buy more?
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a little shocking. He actually hopes Bitcoin drops significantly,
He hopes it drops. Why?
specifically to get an opportunity to buy more BTC at a reduced price.
Wow. Actively hoping for a crash. That's truly counterintuitive for an investor, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But, this isn't just some throwaway line from him. It aligns perfectly with his deeply ingrained long-term bullish view.
So for him, a dip is just a sale.
Basically, any significant dip is simply a chance to accumulate more of what he considers an undervalued asset. It sort of echoes figures like Michael Saylor,
Right, the MicroStrategy guy.
exactly, who famously advocates that those who hold Bitcoin for at least 5 years have a significant chance of success.
So it's not about timing the market perfectly.
No, not for them.
Ah.
This isn't about trading short-term volatility. It's about conviction in Bitcoin's fundamental long-term value. Seeing dips as opportunities to strengthen a position, not run for the hills, it really speaks to a different investing philosophy altogether.
And he's putting his money where his mouth is, right?
Yeah.
He's not just talking the talk.
Well, exactly. Kiyosaki recently revealed he bought more Bitcoin above $100,000.
Above 100K. So he's clearly not waiting for that crash he says he hopes for.
Seems not. Or at least he's not only waiting.
So what's his reasoning for buying at those, higher prices then?
Simple, really. He believes Bitcoin is undervalued at the current price, even at $100,000 plus.
Undervalued at over $100. How does he figure that?
Precisely. For Kiyosaki, that idea, being undervalued at 100K, it stems from his core belief in Bitcoin's ultimate scarcity.
The 21 million coin limit.
Exactly. That fixed supply, set against what he sees as the limitless printing and inherent devaluation of traditional fiat currencies,
Like the dollar.
like the dollar, the euro, you name it.
Yeah.
From that perspective, he sees Bitcoin's current market cap as, well, relatively small compared to its potential.
Potential is what? A global store value.
Yeah, especially in an inflationary environment. And to back up that conviction, he's put some incredibly bold predictions out there.
Like what?
He believes Bitcoin will reach $200,000 by the end of the year.
$200 in the next 5 years?
$1 million per Bitcoin.
Oh,
Those are significant targets.
they absolutely are. Reflects his profound belief in its trajectory.
And this isn't a new take for him, is it? He's been pro-Bitcoin for a while. Oh, for a long time. He's had this long-standing support for Bitcoin as a better alternative to saving in fiat currencies.
Right. The rich dad, poor dad guy has always been critical of just saving cash.
Exactly. He frequently frames Bitcoin as the biggest opportunity in history, urging investors to acquire it alongside other hard assets like gold and silver.
So for him, it's not just another investment, it's almost a fundamental shift in how we view money itself.
That's spot on. Kiyosaki's perspective is deeply rooted in his critique of the whole traditional financial system.
He sees fiat currencies as inherently unstable.
Yeah, unstable and subject to debasement by central banks through policies like, quantitative easing.
Which he thinks just devalues people's savings.
Correct. In his view, Bitcoin, much like gold and silver, represents a form of sound money, something outside the control of governments and banks, a hedge against systemic financial instability.
Okay. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, when you're thinking about asset valuation and long-term strategy, especially in these increasingly volatile markets?
Well, Kiyosaki presents a very specific philosophy, doesn't he? It
Yep.
truly challenges the typical buy low, sell high mentality.
Yeah, instead focusing on accumulation almost regardless of short-term dips if you believe in the long-term story.
Exactly. If the long-term outlook is fundamentally bullish for an asset like Bitcoin, in his view, the dips are just noise, or better yet, opportunities.
This deep dive into Kiyosaki's perspective, it really unpacks a unique, almost defiant approach to navigating market fluctuations. It's a clear example of conviction, not just, trumping, but actively seeking out what others might see as short-term market chaos.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises a really important question for you to consider, I think.
Which is,
In this information-rich world, we are constantly bombarded with headlines and predictions. How do you distinguish between what Kiyosaki might call market manipulation and genuine long-term investment foresight?
especially when a prominent figure is actively hoping for a price drop, makes you think.
It certainly does. How do you filter that signal from the noise? Something to mull over.